10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
A pleasant afternoon to each and everyone here in this webinar. It is such an honor for us to have you here in the second part of our webinar series as we share a fruitful discussion concerning organizational leadership. But before we proceed, allow me to take this opportunity to thank our dear professor, Dr. Rosalie A. Corpus, for giving us the spotlight to conduct this webinar where we are given a chance to share some of our insights and knowledge that will surely help us as a future educator. Right, partner?
Right, Ma'am Rona. I believe that this activity will be important for us teachers in the future because we need to practice our speaking skills in our discussion during our discussions. So before we start, please give me a heart react if you can hear me, if my audio is clear. Okay, it looks like I'm audible. So according to Gina Greenlee, practice makes comfort. Comfort, not perfect. Because even though we're presenting at this moment, anything can happen. We can create mistakes when we have mental block. So expand your experiences regularly so that every stretch won't feel like your first. Okay, for our etiquette reminder, kindly mute your microphone when the speaker is discussing their topic. Okay? You may also send your feedbacks in our comment section if you have any. I would just like to remind you that at the end of this webinar, we will have a quiz form that will evaluate our performance for today. So please answer them, okay? So once again, I am Sir Jeric A. Calamno, and you can just call me Sir Jeric.
And I am Teacher Rona, or you can call me Ma'am Rona, and we are your Masters of Ceremony. So to formally start our webinar, we would like to request everyone to bow their heads and feel the presence of our God through a doxology to be followed by the national anthem.
Our dear Almighty Father, we express our sincere gratitude for the gift of another day. We ask forgiveness for our sins, for which we lay our regrets and sorrows. Thank you for your overflowing and unending patience, kindness, and love that you shower us every day of our lives. Today, as we gather for this special event, we humbly seek your divine providence to help us share your grace to others. Help us engage in meaningful discussions by giving us wisdom, understanding, and guidance. Help us learn and grow and love one another so that we can become better children of yours. Amen.
All right, once again, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar entitled Organizational Leadership. As a future educators, it is very important for us to learn this topic because in the near future, we will manage our own learning classrooms, which will leave a great influence on our students' learning and well being. And with that being said, I am very sure that everyone here in our Zoom meeting is very eager to listen to our discussion for today.
That is right, because this topic, the organizational leadership, these skills are used everywhere, especially for us teachers, because we are not just teachers for our paycheck. We're teachers to ensure that our objective is met. Our objectives are met, not just ours alone. We also have our students and our institute's objective. And these skills will come into play when we are working face to face.
Without further ado, I am very excited to introduce to you our first speaker. She graduated from Our Lady of Fatima University under the Accountancy, Business, and Management strand with flying colors. She's a student achiever and a consistent academic awardee all throughout her high school years. Now, she is a sophomore college student at the Polytechnic University of the Philippines and a consistent president's lister.
Furthermore, she's also an experienced leader herself, for she used to be a class president during her senior high school years. And she was also a previous vice president on BSEDEN 11N's block. Right now, she's an appointed auditor at the said class and the PUP elite. Let us all welcome Ma'am Grand Prix Agus. So, Ma'am Prix, the floor is all yours.
Wow, thank you for that, Ma'am Rona and Sir Jeric. Before anything else, I would like to extend my gratitude to the organizers of this event for inviting me as one of your speakers. But first, I'm sorry if I cannot um, open my camera for some internet connection. So, anyways, before I start my lecture, can I get emoji reactions there if my audio is loud and clear? All right. Thank you for that reaction, teachers. So now, allow me to start my lecture entitled Shaping the Future. To begin with, let us talk about what is organizational leadership. Under the organizational leadership, leaders help set strategic goals for the organization while motivating individuals within the organization to successfully carry out assignments in order to realize these goals. So, for an instance, sa loob ng school, we can consider the principal as a school leader who helps set the goals, targets for the school, and motivate teachers, parents, learners, non-teaching personnel, and other members of the community to do their tasks. Sorry. These goals are for the students. They should learn. Of course, that is the reason why they go to school. Then for teachers, they should teach students the necessary knowledge that they should know. All right. Next one is organizational leadership is also an attitude and a work ethic that empowers an individual in any role to lead from the top, middle, or bottom of an organization. A school leader helps anyone from the organization, pero it is not necessarily from the top to lead others. What does it mean po? Leadership does not necessarily really come from the top of the organization. An example is yun nga ang pagiging ang pagiging teacher leader sa loob ng classroom. So now let's move on sa ano nga ba ang mga roles ng isang teacher leader. So the following are some fluid and spontaneous roles that are just essential as the leader to the success of the team. All right, it is expected that leadership will change, shift, or evolve over time. Leadership roles should not be determined by seniority, of course. Hindi porken matanda ka, ay i-abuse mo na ang power mo to lead kahit hindi ka naman karapat-dapat na mamuno. Seniority does not define leadership, okay? So the first role of teacher leaders is, first one is grade level subject area leader. Ano nga ba ito? Under this, the leader coordinates specific needs by content area or instructional concerns and strategies regarding specific levels and learners. Through horizontal alignment, the subject area specialist coordinates curriculum across their grade level, providing instructional leadership and support teachers of a common subject. Mahalaga naman talaga na ma-monitor ng instruction at assessment ng mga teachers sa bawat grade level kasi nga ang mga students ay meron na dapat i-possess na mga sets of skills at maging ang pagkakaalam ng specific knowledge at the end of the year. Kung ang estudyante, halimbawa, ay under sa grade 1, of course, at the end of the school year, nararapat na natulungan ng teacher ang bata na ma-familiarize o matuto sa pagbabasa. So, moving forward to number 2, the second role of a teacher leader is being a vertical leader. So, similar to grade level subject area leader, it works specifically down towards vertical alignment of learners' skills and knowledge up and down grade levels. Dito naman ay dapat masiguro ng mga teachers na ang kanyang estudyante ay naka-acquire na ng necessary knowledge and skills in their previous level in the subject. For example, sa math, na kung saan ay dapat nilang maabot ang tinatawag na bench level sa subject na iyon. Kung hindi, they have to find ways to tighten the instruction of the curriculum. Dito papasok ang iba't ibang adjustment ng teachers para ma-meet yung kalagayan ng kanyang estudyante para matuto. And it is to create ways na swak sa level lang ng perception ng bata para matuto. The third one is mentor. A leader is a mentor. What do you mean by this? A peer coach is similar to a mentor except that with this pair, both teachers, not necessarily novices, function as mentor and as prestige. In this relationship, the word peer is the key. Dahil ang peer ay dinedenotes ang equality, these teachers are non-threatening. Take note, peer coach kind of teachers are not evaluative and prescriptive, but there are diagnostic and constructive. That means they allow teachers to experiment and take risks without fear of judgment. Pagkatapos ng observation inside the classroom, peer coaches discussed, observe instructional behaviors, actions, and practices, which can include giving feedback on plans, lessons, instruction, classroom presence, and classroom management. Under din ng peer coach role ay mayroong safe environment among volunteers that enables them to converse in a candid manner and learn from each other. Dahil dito, teachers' growth, the team's growth, and the students' growth are benefited. Now, let's go to the fifth role of the teacher, and it is the note taker or recorder. It is an accurate record that was discussed and what was decided can be helpful in case of future disagreement, as well as in bringing people who missed the meeting up to speed. Of course, it is very important to keep a record of every meeting because of selective memories. It is also a good idea to keep the minutes in a central place so all teachers, regardless of what team they are serving on, have access to them, which is dahil nga dito ay naka-note at naka-record siya. The sixth one is the timekeeper. Teacher leader under here keeps the group on task with the agenda. The timekeeper reminds members of the meetings that should be productive since we do not know how was the day of other people, whether if they are tired and so on. The seventh one is the school plan chair. This role usually does not rotate because consistency and continuity are extremely important. In here, the school plan chair has an integral position in coordinating and guiding the school towards achieving its vision. In short, under this role, the school plan chair takes in charge of the vision of the school in fulfilling its achievement. The eighth one is cooperating teacher. It is someone who is willing to sponsor a practicum pre-service teacher from the local college or university. In here, it should be stressed that hosting a student teacher involves much time and can even be quite burdensome, especially if the person is not well prepared as he could be. This leader models exemplary instructional techniques and strategies for the pre-service teacher to observe during this stay. Okay, let's go with the number 9, which is the community leader. Under this role, all teachers should be involved in their communities, not just because of the obvious reasons, but also because of the political ramifications. Teachers can reach out to the surrounding community by volunteering to teach courses in their areas of specialty, by attending community functions to show their support, or by attending community meetings to keep abreast of concerns. Ano nga ba ang example nito? Ito ay ang pag-attend sa mga PTA meetings o ang pagsiserve ng liaison between the PTA and the faculty in another way to build connections. With this, it just shows that teachers can also exhibit leadership by actively engaging the community. Okay, the 10th one would be Student Activities Coordinator. This teacher, on the other hand, works for a tighter band between students and organization sponsors by finding the best match. Okay, so when we say that it is a good match, it have a direct influence on student achievement because extracurriculars and achievement are related. In overseeing students group, this kind of leader might encourage teachers to become sponsors or encourage group to plan joint events. To share lang, I think sa junior high marami ganito na there are so many clubs related to subject areas such as math, English, and science clubs, and many more na pinangunahan ng teachers. Pero the best club nung junior high na sinalihan ko is the Ecological Society Club sa school namin that aims to give back to the community where we've done tree planting, food feeding, and many more programs sa pangunguna ng aming teacher. The 11th role of teacher leader would be as a technology leader. In here, the leader coordinates the team's technological needs and serves as a troubleshooter when glitches arise. I'll just share ulit my experience naman nung senior high school when we have a strand day. Specifically, that was, I think, ABM day to be exact. And there seems to have problems on the technical group in which some of my classmates are there. So, ang nangyari, tinake over ng, I think, 3 of our ICT teachers yung technical team ng buong program. But the technology leader may not be initially need to be most techy teacher in the team, but he or she can be trained in this area and maalam siya sa paggamit nito since we are under the 21st century na kung saan kabi-kabila na ang paggamit ng technology sa ating buhay. Alright, for our last role, we have web page curator. This position is best suited for the technophile who is an enthusiast of a technology. Many teachers love technology and crave the opportunity to demonstrate their knowledge of it and will jump at the chance to use it. With that, the teacher might create links to other helpful websites, write an online newsletter, or even work on anything else that would be beneficial to the learning community. Now we are halfway through my lecture. It is the leadership versus management. Being a leader and a manager is not the same. Because when we say leader, it is a person who directs, guides, and influences the behavior of his followers towards the attainment of specific goals. On the other hand, the manager is the representative of the organization responsible for the management of the work of a group of employees and take requisite actions whenever required. To understand it more, leaders create a vision, while managers create goals. Leaders paint a picture of what they see as possible and inspire, engage their people in turning that vision into reality. They think beyond that what individuals do. They activate people to be part of something bigger. They know that high functioning teams can accomplish a lot more working together than individuals working autonomously. With that, managers focus on setting, measuring, and achieving goals. They control situations to reach or exceed their objectives. So now, let's talk about conceptual skill. It's conceptual skill. Conceptual skill is the ability to think in terms of models, frameworks, and broad relationships, such as long range of plans. In short, ano nga ba ang conceptual skill? It deals with ideas while human skill concerns relationships with people and technical skills involve psychomotor skills and things. The ideal school leader possesses all three. Ulitin natin yung tatlong yon. The conceptual, human, and technical skills. Ito yung mga dapat i-possess ng isang ideal school leader. Ngayon naman ay dadako na tayo sa last phase, which is the leadership styles. There are four leadership styles. The first one would be autocratic. Autocratic leaders do decision making by themselves. They're often described as those with ultimate authority and power over others. These leaders tend to make choices based upon their own ideas alone and do not listen to their team or seek input from others. Next, we move on to consultative leader. They allow participation of the members of the organization by consulting them but make the decisions themselves. Okay, so this is what happens in consultation meetings called by schools when they increase tuition fees, for instance. Sometimes education stakeholders get disappointed that their suggestions are not carried after the school leaders have consulted them. It is because they have a consultative leader. They do not understand the consultation does not necessarily mean approval of a stakeholder's suggestion. Next would be democratic. Democratic leader allow the members of the organization to fully participate in decision making. With this, decisions are arrived at by the way of consensus. This is genuine participation of the members of the organization, which is in keeping with school empowerment. Lastly, we have laissez-faire or free reign leadership. In here, leaders avoid responsibility and leave the members of the organization to establish their own work. These leadership styles need to kanya-kanya mentality, one of the weakness of the Filipino character. Actually, there will be no problem if the situation is ideal. For example, each member of the organization has reached a level of maturity, and so if members are left to themselves, they will only do what is good for the organization. On the other hand, it will be chaos if each member will do as she please, even if it is against the common good. And with that, and that ends my discussion about leadership styles. To formally end my lecture, Maybe you are wondering why it is entitled as Shaping the Future. To answer you guys, leaders are the ones who make change. And this change is vital and important for the betterment of our society. If our community is full of ideal leaders, like the teachers, we can achieve a greater and a brighter tomorrow. With that, I would like to say thank you to those who patiently wait to my lecture until the end. I hope you've learned something about it.
Thank you for that wonderful discussion, Ma'am Pri. So, a short reflection on your discussions earlier. So, what I learned is that the teachers are the ones who are balancing the organizations. We make or break the schools because we need to ensure that our students or individuals are getting the proper treatment or they're doing their tasks. So, the balance in power must come into play because we cannot put aside the objectives of our institute just for the sake of an individual. So both parties must benefit from this. So we also learned that there are different ways and different methods of leading an organization. And we can really see in our classroom situation the kanya-kanya style of leading a group, just starting with our students and even with our teachers, right? We have our different departments, but we need to apply the discussions that Ma'am Pri said earlier in our real life situation because we cannot expect everyone to function properly without the guidance of the leader. Just like what she said, some members or some groups that's appropriate to some because some workers or some members are already matured. So we can already leave them, let them be. But some are still blooming. So they need proper assistance from leaders so that someday, when they're on their own, they can also produce leaders just like them. Okay, what do you think, Ma'am Rhonda?
I totally agree, Sir Jeric. And aside from what you've mentioned, I also realize how flexible the teachers are when it comes to the roles inside the school. So imagine they are not just there to teach, but they're also there to act as a second parent of the children. And now they also need to act as a leader. So it really takes a burning passion to do all of these tasks since it is not an easy job.
So, good day, everyone. We're now already at the half of this webinar. Now, let us proceed to an intermission number from BSEDN's Songstress of Hope, or she is also known as Hiraya. She performed dozens of times in our section's event. She is a big one. She's back once more to blow our mind with her awe-inspiring performance. So let us welcome our very own Miss Alexis Marie Casas.
Some people live for the fortune. Some people live just for the fame. Some people live for the power, yeah. Some people live just to play the game. Some people think that a physical things define what's within, and I've been there before, but that life's a bore so full of the superficial. Some people want it all, but I don't want nothing at all. search for the fountain. The promise is forever young. Some people need 3,000 roses, and that's the only way to prove you love them. Hand me the world on a silver platter, and what good would it be with no one to share, with no one who truly cares for me? Some people want it all, but I don't want nothing at all. If it ain't you, baby, if I ain't got you, baby. Some people want type of things, some just want everything, but everything means nothing if I ain't got you. Some people want it all, but I don't want nothing at all. If it ain't you, baby, if I ain't got you, baby. Some people want type of things, some just want everything, but everything means nothing if I ain't got you. Yeah. If I ain't got you with me, baby. Ooh, so nothing in this whole world don't mean a thing if I ain't got you with me, baby.
Wow, that's a very great performance, Ma'am Alexis. You surely moved everyone here in our Zoom meeting. And I think we can all agree that you have a very angelic voice, right? What do you think, sir?
I agree, Ma'am Rona. That performance really shocked me. It's so stunning. Okay, if I ain't got you, a cover by Ma'am Alexis. So that performance awakened their minds. I hope so. So thank you again, Ma'am Lexi, for joining us in this intermission. Thank you for that number. And now let us proceed to our next speaker. I am very excited to introduce to you our second speaker. She graduated from My Messiah School of Cavite. She took humanities and social sciences strand. She is also a student achiever and a consistent academic excellence awardee, just like our first speaker. Now she's a sophomore at PUP. She's a former class secretary of BSEDEN 21N and a consistent president lister. Let us all welcome Ma'am Shan Retreta. Ma'am Shani, the floor is yours. Break a leg.
Ayan, thank you for that warm welcome and wonderful introduction, MC. So, good day, everyone. I hope that you all are still there and doing well. And also, welcome to the second part of our webinar called Leadership in Action. Now, at this point, we'll be discussing about the leadership qualities, servant and transformational leadership, and sustaining change. So, before I start, I just want to ask everyone if they can hear me well. Kindly tap the heart react. Ayan, thank you for that one. Now, we'll start the main discussion. Ayan, leadership and action. So let's go first with the leadership qualities. So these qualities are the qualities that leaders have in common. So many of these characteristics are seen in effective teachers. At ang mga leadership skills na ito ang nagsisilbing strength and abilities of those individuals that help to oversee the processes and guide initiatives towards the achievements of the goals. Leadership quality. So the first quality is principled. Principled leaders are willing to take a stand and fight for what they truly believe in. So, this kind of leaders are the ones who articulate their values, make decisions guided by their values, and consistently live their values in a transparent manner. So, they are the ones who show much accountability and the one that we know, transparency. So, the next one is honest and ethical. So, people will generally choose a leader who is honest, ethical, and respected. Kasi sino ba namang ayaw sa honest at matapat na leader, di ba? Kung gusto mong sumunod sa yung mga tao, yung mga um, the community that you led, of course, you need to show them honesty and the value of ethics, which is more important. So these leaders keep everyone abreast of what is going on within the group or community, even if it's good or bad. So moving on, an honest leader will not stray from the truth and will avoid ever sharing information in a less straightforward way. And yes, truth and honesty can be difficult to carry out kasi masakit nga naman talaga ang katotohanan, di ba? And because we don't want to be the bearers of bad news, ayaw naman nating laging nagbibigay ng bad news sa community natin. So, honesty still carries the day despite those. So it gains stronger support from members, which allows them to gather right solutions, brainstorm for solutions to be applied and resolve those problems. So next one is organized. So having some kind of system in place, however foreign it may appear to others, to stay focused and on track. So this kind of leaders are able to handle responsibilities necessary for teaching and leading. Involved dito yung pag-set ng goals, overseeing staff, creating a vision, working well with others, and above all, being a leader. Being an organized leader. So the next one is perceptive. Sensing what people need and when they need it is a key to leadership quality. And that's right. So these leaders are the ones who have sensitive insight to relationship and situations. They are good at understanding things and figuring things out. So they also envision the possibilities kung ano ang possible mangyari, embracing what could be, what could happen. They are insightful and able to see what others cannot. So next one is empathetic and supportive. So an empathetic and supportive leader assists others emotionally, socially, and instructionally and forges connection with them. So these are the kind of leaders without being judgmental. They find ways to help people recognize and learn from their mistakes. So they don't punish people. They don't intend on punishing people, but instead, mas tinutulungan nila silang mag-improve. They are helping them and give support for them to learn from their mistakes and improve. So next one is altruistic. Leaders sacrifice their planning periods, their free time, and sometimes even their personal lives for the benefit of others. So dito na papasok yung mga leaders na they put the needs of others ahead on their own. They consider more others' feelings and needs. They show sympathy, offer to provide coaching, mentoring, and assistance when it is required. So the next quality is accessible. Should be accessible during contract hours. A good leader knows how to set limit. This kind of leaders put people at ease. They encourage transparency. They provide guidance and doesn't stand on the titles. Being accessible doesn't mean na dapat available ka all the time. Dapat nandyan ka palagi. One call away, like that. Being accessible doesn't mean you are open for 24/7 for the questions, but it does mean that a leader has been careful in consideration to set availability. Uh, and that availability is known to the members or the people that you lead so that they can know how and when to reach you. Next to accessible is resourceful. People are inspired to work with a leader who can circumvent roadblocks, devise creative solutions, and use a network. And yes, by the word itself, resourceful, this kind of leader is the one that is able to quickly adapt to new or different situations. Examples of this ay yung sudden change or a problem suddenly are acting up. So they're able to find solutions, they think creatively, and sometimes manage it with what they have available to them. So next to that is fair. A fair leader hears all voices, does not play favorites, and is not self-serving. So yes, being fair means prioritizing and ensuring that everyone has the access to what they need. Yet treating everyone fairly is more important than treating everyone equally. They does not allow friendships or rivalries to impede to the group's progress, especially when moving toward improved achievement. And of course, they understand that they walk in a fine line, um, expresses that to their teachers, and practices fairness all the time, practices fairness toward all whenever it is possible. So next to fair is accepting. Accepts people's flaws and shortcomings and learns how to work with them. Um, Dito mo pasok yung pag-accept ng people for who and what they are. So when a leader comes from a place where everyone is accepted with respect, it makes much more natural and easier to accept others as valuable, including individuals and unique human beings, allowing others and himself to be genuine and fully productive. Now, next one is vulnerable. So, these are the leaders that are not afraid to admit when they do not know the answer. So, they are willing to learn and ask others for the answers. Leaders like these are the ones who own up to their mistakes, and there are also times that they share their errors with an explanation of what they have learned from that experience. So they accept their mistakes, they admit their mistakes, they show willingness to grow. So, and being vulnerable does not show weakness. It actually shows change, that you are willing to change in a mindset that enables you to see through the eyes of the people that you lead, because vulnerability builds trust and it elevates performance. Next to that is forward thinking. Well, this one, recognize the far reaching effects of a good idea and get the ball rolling. So leaders with forward thinking behavior can save their group time and growing pains by suggesting change and giving choices. They also have a knack for anticipating what might happen next, making them prepared for the change so they can adapt when it is applicable. The next quality is global, seeing the big picture, seeing the bigger picture. So with this, a teacher leader is not always able to understand why decisions are made and how they affect the entire organizational structure, but they thus comprehend the consequences for the team. So getting a bigger picture perspective tends to reinforce the things that are important and subsequently focus your attention on what you determine to be your priorities. So, inaalaw nito yung pagkakaroon ng mas malawak na perspective that you can communicate, that you can share to the rest of the team, which opens new opportunities for improvement. So next to that is decisive and incisive. So those leaders who get things done are the most appreciated. So yes, it is true. And leaders take the initiative and make things happen. Um, Getting immediately to the heart of an issue shows a keen and quick mind, so it can save time. So in a profession where time is limited and people in an inordinate amount of time discussing, debating, and deliberating issues, respect belongs to the person um, who can consider all the angles and decide accordingly. So now we have the last quality, which is the intelligence. So educators value intelligence and crave an intelligent leader. So yes, all of us wants to have an intelligent leader. And intelligence allows leaders to evaluate others' opinions, even if it's hypothetical, to place them into a plan to see if it fits in, if they fit in. So intelligent leaders not only try to comprehend how to get the work done, but also um, they know how others are willing to strategize and plan accordingly. Adding to that, leadership is the ability to lead an entire team or organization to success, and it is not dictatorship. So these leaders constantly adapt to new strategies and learn from others to develop their skills. They are eager to learn, they are willing to hear from others' perspective that also make people working with them think as a team. So those are the qualities that effective leaders have. And now, moving on to our discussion, we have servant leadership. As we can see, Robert K. Greenleaf in 1977 coined the paradoxical term servant leadership. So pertaining to the question, how can one be a leader when he or she is a servant? So let's see. And the first desire of a servant leader is to serve. How? By leading. So the greatest teacher of humankind, Jesus Christ, was a servant leader. So according to our religious beliefs, he taught his disciples, he who wants to great must be the servant of all. So the life of the greatest teacher, who is Jesus Christ, was a life of a total service to all, wherein his whole life was a life of a service. So adding to that, in fact, he wanted to impress this idea of servant leadership by doing something in his last days. So he washed the feet of his apostles, because washing the feet was the work of servant at those times. So servant leadership seeks to involve others in decision making. It is strongly based in ethical and caring behavior and enhances the growth of workers while improving the caring and quality of organizational life. So madalas nating naririnig yung public servants. We often hear them, often hear that term, public servants. And it only refers to the appointed and elected officials of the government, which emphasizes the fact that they indeed are the servants of the people. At syempre, ang unang duty nila is to serve the people. So, their first duty is to serve, and in serving, that is the start of how they lead. Now, let's move on to transformational leadership. The transformational school leader sees school culture as it could be and should be not as it is. So, It is where the leaders play their role as visionary, engager, learner collaborator, and instructional leader. And as transformational leader, he or she makes positive changes in the organization. By how? By collaboratively developing new visions, mobilizing members to work towards that vision, and combining the charisma and intellectual stimulation to introduce innovations that will transform, um, that will work for the transformation of their organization. So teacher leaders act as coaches and mentors, observe classrooms so that instruction can be refined and best practices implemented. So it also attempts to realize a vision or to the culture, the environment. Um, Makikita to sa mga schools where transformational leadership is present. Administrators recognize that the leadership of a department chair or the team leader itself can make a significant difference or change in the culture of the school. Hindi sila threatened sa influence ng teacher or sa exercise ng pagkakaroon ng leadership, nor by giving up some control. These administrators strive to encourage and cultivate leadership, quoting that it is the better use of the unique strengths and contributions that the department heads can bring to the school management and for its improvement. Now, going to the last part of the discussion, sustaining change, we can say that everything changes. Lahat nagbabago. Ang daming nagbabago sa paligid natin. Hence, change is the only thing that is constant in the world, di ba? So, for reforms to transform, the innovations introduced by the transformational leader must be institutional and sustained. So, dito effective yung pagkakaroon ng transformational leadership. It is an effective strategy for inspiring change in an organization, wherein they also encourage, inspire, and motivate in order to have this innovation and create change. So after understanding the need for the change, effective leaders begin by making the case of the change that they seek. This can include evaluating the context, the main context, understanding the purpose of change, bakit magbabago, bakit kailangan ng pagbabago, developing a clear vision and desired outcome, and identifying their common goal. And yet, if we want improvement in the way we do things in our organization, even if it's in our school or if we want to improve in life, we must be willing to change. So this transformational leader ought to deal with the resistance to change to succeed, that there will always be the resistors to change. Now, to ensure that the innovation he or she introduces leads to the transformation of the organization, Marata of Bayan from ABS-CBN in 2011 gives the following advices. The first one is to seek the support of the stakeholders. So why would we seek for the support of these stakeholders? The leaders must build a strong coalition of allies in order to push for any meaningful changes that would yield to great results, that would yield to the outcomes that we would like to meet. So innovations, of course, cannot be forced upon the teachers, the students, the parents, and even the community without those serious consequences. So we need to seek for the support of the stakeholders for the change to succeed, for the change to meet the main objectives. Now, the second one is get people involved early and often. So, this one pertains to the resistance because resistance drops off in proportion to the involvement of participants. You may not expect 100% from other people, their 100% support from any individual who was not personally involved in in the change that will affect his or her work. So it is best to set up networks to reach out um, as many people as possible and as early as possible. So next one, plan a communications campaign to sell the innovation. So in order to win the support of the major stakeholders, the change in vision must cascade towards downwards to the last lesson plan. So to develop a plan for this, you need to identify the purpose of your communication and of course the audience, um, plan the obstacles and the possible emergencies that you may encounter. And then strategize how will you connect with the media and others who can help to spread the message. So the next one is to ensure that the innovation is understood by all. So the benefits and costs must be appreciated and weighed carefully. So at this point, innovation is often necessary for these organizations to adapt and overcome the challenges of change. Since it fosters growth, um, achieving organizational and economic growth through this innovation is the key to staying in today's highly competitive world. So that is to ensure that the innovation is understood by all. Now, the last one is to consider timing and phasing. So this one is the highly critical because it may backfire. Missteps of this may backfire and lack of sensitivity to stakeholders might lead to resistance. And so that is the end of my discussion, and that is all for today's lecture. I hope that you learned something from our discussion that might help you to be an effective leader sometime in the future. So thank you for listening and have a great day ahead.
Thank you for that very informative lecture, Ma'am Chan. So upon listening po, one of the lines in your lecture that struck me the most was when you discussed the topic about sustaining change. Because as a future teacher, we should always aim for change. However, not all of us are ready to leave our comfort zone. Hindi po ba? So maybe one of the factors why takot tayong sumubok ay dahil takot din tayo sa failures. Because failures can lead to disappointment and of course, most of us are not ready to be a failure, hindi ba? Pero kasi if mananatili tayo sa comfort zone natin, hindi tayo mag-grow sa iba't ibang aspect ng buhay natin bilang tao. And as a future educator, sobrang importante ng change para sa atin because we really need to challenge ourselves to leave our comfort zone. So once we are already inside the classroom, we can serve as our students inspiration to explore and experience things beyond their comfort zone where they can learn life lessons. So what do you think, Sir Jerry?
I think that leadership qualities are not innate. We're not born with those qualities. Since we were kids, what tells us to take the things that tells us to take an action. So we act based on our environment. So leadership qualities can also be based on the influence of someone that is more knowledgeable about leading. That is the reason why as teachers it is important, just like what I told earlier, that we are masters of our own topics before we discuss so that we can inspire them, we can change them. Because by changing ourselves and giving it our best, being 100 steps ahead, we're already influencing them to be the next us, the next leaders. So by changing our world, we can also change their world.
All right, our two speakers are now done with their presentation. Now, let's move on to the Q&A portion. To those who have questions or clarifications, feel free to utilize the chat box to send your questions that will be answered by our dearest speakers.
Okay, so the students are already sending their questions in our chat box. So let's read the first question. This question is for Ma'am Pri. So which among the leadership styles that you've discussed is participative?
Thank you for that question. So, um, it is a common question na ating na-encounter ha. Pero to answer your question, as I have discussed earlier, the consultative and democratic leadership style kasi are the only ones that allow for participation of the members of the organization. But if we compare the two, which which are the consultative and democratic style of leadership, the democratic style is genuinely participative because it abides the rule of the majority. With that, among the four leadership styles, the democratic leadership is the most participative of them all. Um, Thank you, and I hope the question that I answered your question well, Ma'am Rona, Sir Jerry.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for that. And I think you're very right, Ma'am Pri, when you said na democratic style of leadership, yung pinaka-participative, since this leadership style allows the teacher to also involve their students when it comes to facilitating the learning inside the classroom. Because it would help them to be vocal about their ideas and opinions in a certain matter without the fear na baka magpagalitan sila. So, thank you so much again, ma'am. Now, let's proceed to the next question that will be answered by Ma'am Shannon. Ma'am, allow me to read it. So, what might be the biggest challenge an educational leader or teacher leadership has to face and how? Ma'am?
So thank you for that question. What might be the biggest challenge an educational leader or teacher leadership has to face and how? Like how do we cope with it? So to answer that one, actually there's a lot of challenges an educational leader might face, but as what we are experiencing at the moment, some of these big challenges are the sudden or unexpected changes in the educational environment gaya na ng na-experience natin ngayon. The crisis that we had from 2 years ago until now, which is the COVID-19 pandemic, that threatens the work and emotional engagement with students and the management itself. So in order to cope with these matters, we must improve our skills from time to time. And yes, it is not as easy as we think because leadership action involves a lot. It involves a combination of short-term steps and long-term planning to address these important organizational structures and yung shifting of conditions. Just what we are experiencing right now, we shifted from the traditional environment of education, which is the face-to-face classes, into digital learning with the advent of new teaching methods and approaches, which are not that easy to cope for both students and teachers. So in order to foster students' emotional engagement, we must get to know them well, we must get to know them more. Um, because we have different lives and responsibilities behind the screen. So we must understand the differences in their learning styles and abilities, including the capacity of their knowledge, and establish an effective connection of communication, not only with the administration and the students, but as well as their parents. So it's important to keep in mind how challenging this is, how challenging it is to create an engaging online learning environment. Kailangan nating aralin yung iba't ibang learning platforms with the use of technology. And as what I've said earlier, it requires a long-term planning for us to decide what methods are we going to use for them to meet the objectives and focus on learning. So it requires a huge amount of patience and time. And as the leaders that we are, We must face the difficulties head on, inform the students of our progress, and maintain a positive attitude. So, again, thank you for that wonderful question, and I hope that I answered the question well.
Yes, ma'am. You answered the question very precisely naman po. And I think you're right po na ang daming challenges na kinaharap natin dahil sa COVID-19 pandemic. And isa na doon ay yung naapektuhan yung learning classroom natin. And during this tough time, our main role as as a teacher is to make sure that we understand the learning differences of our students. Since they are very diverse and we need to be more patient in teaching them nang sa gayon ma-cater natin yung needs nila since nahihirapan din naman sila sa pagbabago na nangyayari sa teaching method. And with that, ma'am, thank you so much for that very informative answer, Ma'am Shan. So do you want to add something, Sir Jerry?
I would just like to comment and thank the speakers for their insightful answers to the audience questions. Okay, so for Mom Shan, thank you for sharing. And I believe that teachers are also humans. So we must not take our failures personally because life is like a heartbeat. It's not steady because you'll die if it is. Okay, remember that failure, just like what Albert Einstein said, failure is success in progress. So we may fail, we may stumble, but what matters is that we stand back up, right, Rana?
Yes, sir, that's right. And once again, thank you so much to our dear speakers for precisely answering the questions of the students and imparting exceptional knowledge to all of us. I also want to extend my gratitude to our participants for actively participating in our webinar.
And now, I would like to introduce Ma'am Mary Joy Villacora because she will give her takeaways for today's webinar. Ma'am Villacora.
So good afternoon again, everyone, especially to Dr. Rosalie Curtis. Here are my takeaways to our webinar. Usapang Eduk organizational leadership. So I realized that there are many different aspects to leadership, and this is evident in both its definition and the numerous ideas that have been advanced to try and understand leadership. And indeed, organizational leadership covers a wide range of duties and it conveys the mission and vision, creates the strategic plan, and motivates everyone to contribute their skills to the achievement of the leader's ultimate goals. And just like our two speakers said, organizational leadership makes many great contributions to each of us, just like it allows us to be goal oriented and to promote better communication and especially respect. And most importantly, it motivates not just us but to our members also. So organizational leadership is definitely a must and not needed at every level to consider how current practices can be further improved or changed to meet future needs. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Ma'am Mary Joy. And to show our sincerest gratitude and affection, may I call Ma'am Alexis Marie Casas to award the certificates to our guest speakers and participants and to deliver her gratitude speech. Ma'am Lexi, you may now take the floor.
Thank you, Ma'am Rona. Good day, everyone. I am Miss Alexis Marie Casas, the head organizer for this event. As we approach the very end of our webinar, to express our gratitude and appreciation for your presence and time allotment for this event, we prepared certificates for everyone who attended this very webinar. Republic of the Philippines, Polytechnic University of the Philippines, College of Education, the Teacher and Community School Culture and Organization Leadership, BSEdN 21N, this certificate of recognition is hereby given to Ms. Grand Prix Agus in grateful recognition for her invaluable contribution as resource speaker during the webinar Usaping Eduk Organizational Leadership, given the second day of July 2022 via Zoom communications, signed by Dr. Rosalie Corpus, our subject teacher, and yours truly, Miss Alexis Marie Casas. Republic of the Philippines, Polytechnic University of the Philippines College of Education, the Teacher and Community, School Culture and Organization Leadership, PSZN 21N, this certificate of recognition is hereby given to Ms. Shannon Retreta in grateful recognition for her invaluable contribution as resource speaker during the webinar Usaping Eduk Organizational Leadership, given the second day of July 2022 via Zoom communications. Signed by our subject teacher, Dr. Rosalie Kerpuz, and yours truly, Alexis Marie Casas. Republic of the Philippines, Polytechnic University of the Philippines College of Education, the Teacher and Community, School Culture and Organization Leadership, PSZN 21N, this certificate of appreciation is hereby given to Dr. Rosalie Kerpuz for letting us conduct our webinar, Usaping Eduk Organizational Leadership, given this second day of July 2022 via Zoom communications, signed by yours truly, Alexis Marie Casas, and our very own Ms. Emerlyn Sulima, President of PSZN 21N. And lastly, Republic of the Philippines, Polytechnic University of the Philippines College of Education, the Teacher and Community, School Culture and Organization Leadership, PSZN 21N, this certificate of participation is hereby given to for his or her active participation during the webinar Usaping Eduk Organizational Leadership, given the second day of July 2022 via Zoom communication, signed by our subject teacher, Dr. Rosalie Kerpuz, and our very own Ms. Emerlyn Sulima, President of PSZN 21N. With our sincerest gratitude and appreciation for the time you have allotted to be in this very webinar today, we would like to thank everyone who are present at this very moment and for staying with us up until the end. May we be the future leaders and cultivators of the future generation and hone them in becoming the best versions of themselves and ensure that the scars of yesterday's history would be replaced by the values of empathy, justice, accountability, and responsibility. And may these core values be the light of the future in honing new sets of leaders and citizens of our beloved country. Again, from the bottom of our hearts, we express our sincerest gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So what an extraordinary day. So it really rained tons of information that is essential in our life. So to all of our dear participants, may you take and embody all the lessons from our discussion as you progress in your career path.
Aside from that, we would also like to take this opportunity to thank all the hardworking members of this webinar. Thank you for making this webinar a success.
It is our pleasure to become your host for today. We hope that all of us here gained an exceptional knowledge. And by the way, I am teacher Rona May de la Cruz, or you can call me as Ma'am Rona.
And I am Sir Jeric A. Calamno, and you can call me Sir Jeric. And we are the Masters of Ceramics. Once again, thank you everyone. And to formally end this webinar, let us all sing with pride and joy the PUP hymn.
Pangalanan, tanglangka ng bayan,
Philippines.